It's very juicy. See it if you have a chance. But then, after that, How to Get Away with Murder. It was episode 8. All right. So, How to Get Away with Murder began with the flashback. You see Lila alive, and she's talking to Rebecca. It's girl talk, and she's talking about Mr. Darby or Darcy or whatever they're calling him. Lila is saying to Rebecca how she loves or fell in love with Mr. Darby or Darcy, whatever his name was, and that he basically took her virginity. She was happy to give it to him. He was very tender, the whole thing. And she's also later on in the flashback says that she's pregnant, and she's going to go confront the wife, which you and I know is Annalise, his president. The wife is Professor Keaton. All right. So they also show Bonnie stopping her from going to confront Professor Keaton, telling her you need to go away. You just need to shoo. She kind of shoos her away. She really, in a condescending way. And the flashback also shows Sam, again, arguing with Professor Keaton about Lila. And we go back to present day, and there's a case of Mrs. Thomas, who was a sleepwalker who murdered her housekeeper during one of her sleepwalking escapades. Michaela and her mother-in-law almost trade physical blows when she tries to get Michaela to sign this prenup, and Michaela basically, she won't do it, okay? Lynn Whitfield plays the beautiful mother-in-law, but she is vicious. Holy smokes, okay? So it's going to be interesting to see how that situation works out. And in another scene, Professor Keaton asks Wes not to tell Rebecca that Lila was pregnant. However, Wes tells Rebecca. Rebecca then tells Detective Nate, who suggests that she try to get a hair sample from Sam in order to match the DNA and find out whose baby that really is, if it's really, Lila and Sam's baby. Rebecca goes over to do that, to get the sample, maybe on a hairbrush or whatever, but Sam kicks her out, before she's able to do that. We talked about that before. So Sam advises his wife that Rebecca was over there, and I'm sure he thinks something is going on. They're smart people. I mean, educated and smart. But anyway, he says to his wife, yes, she was over here, but I got rid of her. I kicked her out. He didn't say I kicked her out, but I got rid of her. All right. But Professor Keaton thinks that's very sweet. She's not upset. It's kind of, she's a little beaten down now. I think she's just ready to give up on Sam. Too much is coming out. I don't know. I think she's feeling it's going to be very hard for her to protect him. She is a lawyer, so she knows the in and outs of law. And I think she's feeling like she's going to have a hard time trying to deal with Sam in court, trying to protect his interests. Anyway, she also infers that she's barren because she was going with a married man, which was Sam, while he was still married. She's like, remember we found out last time that she's a second wife, and she was having an affair with him during the first marriage. All right, so she's feeling a little bit guilty, I guess, melancholy now. All right, there's a little funny scene where Mrs. Thomas's son has admitted having an affair with the maid. All right, and then one of her little legal eagle guys comes in, and he tries to pretend like he can bond with Mrs. Thomas's son. Yeah, there was a woman that I was in love with one time too, and it's so funny because Mrs. Thomas's son takes one look at him. I don't know if it was Connor or Asher. Takes one look at him, says, "Nah, everybody can see you're gay, man." So Professor gets Mrs. Thomas off, but in doing so, the husband confesses and is arrested. Evidently, while she was in her sleepwalking mode, he murdered the housekeeper and tried to pin it on the wife. Knowing full well that she would get up out of her sleepwalking stupor and she doesn't remember. So of course she thinks she did it. Everybody thinks she did it, but it was the husband. All right. So then the wife gets mad at Professor Keaton, comes to her and said, you broken up my family now. My husband's going to jail, And then Professor Keaton takes her hand and says, you'll thank me later. It's ugly. All right. So you also see a flashback of Bonnie and Sam kissing. So you got to wonder if they had an affair or they were just extremely close, But I think that Professor Keaton always suspected that something was going on behind her back or in front of her face, and she didn't care. I don't know, because she's having fun too, right, with Detective Nate. So I guess 50-50. Right. Bonnie tells Professor Keaton that Sam knew Lila was pregnant. Professor Keaton starts to cry, and she tearfully fires Bonnie and asks her to leave and never come back. When her husband comes home, she informs him that she ordered DNA samples on all of the men in Lila's life, including all of Lila's teachers, which includes him. And then that was it. The episode ended. And so we'll see what's going to happen next week. All right. You take care. God bless. Until we meet again. It's Renee Stanley for Movie Review Relay. God bless.